Bigger than Capes.
Give me some outside.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it, and then I watched it.
Oh, dry.
Hello, welcome to Bigger Than Capes. I'm Zach, and this week I'm joined by Angela. How you doing, Angela?
I'm doing all right, thank you very much.
Jolly good.
Yeah.
I feel like this is our first episode together in a while.
It is, because, we had Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe, which was everybody, and the Roundup, which was everybody.
Yes, we did. And other things. Did I talk about something with Will at one point?
Little Bird, last week you talked
with Will. Yeah, so this is our first episode together since Homesick Pilots?
Yeah, I think it is.
Oh, look at me remembering our
memories.
Past conversations. So, how have you been in the last, I want to say month? It's been all right. You know, it feels at the moment like we're just living in a perpetual cycle of nothingness. So that's continued. Sweet nothingness.
Yeah.
It does a little bit. I've kind of been waiting for something to happen for like what feels like an eternity now. But yeah, not a lot does happen, does it, really?
No. You know, it's Monday and then it's Sunday and then it's Monday again, and you think, wow, that was a week. Pretty
much. Not sure how I feel about it. The heat is still killing me, as I said to Will a week ago. I just stay awake being warm now. I don't really sleep. I've given that up.
I at least close my eyes under the pretense of sleep.
That's right. I just lie in the dark for a while thinking about how warm I am. So have you been doing much? You've been reading some things, watching some things?
I've been reading some things. I'm currently I am well behind in the Murderbot Diaries, which if you've never read them, people, you really, really should. They're so good. I'm currently, where am I up to? Network Effect at the moment, because Fugitive Telemetry appeared and I was like, I never read Network Effect. I need to go back and just read that before I read, although apparently Fugitive Telemetry is a standalone, but I thought, I need to get back on this. The problem with it is once I start reading it, I don't want to stop, which is very awkward when I'm trying to read it during a lunch break at work, because I'm like, I've got to go back to work, but also I want to know what happens next. It's very frustrating. It's a really good read, but a very frustrating read.
I can honestly say I've not read any Murderbot Diaries.
You need to read Murderbot. Everyone needs to read Murderbot. It is, I don't read a lot of books with many words in them. I mean, to be fair, they don't, because there's like novellas and then the full-length novel, which is still shorter than most novels. But yeah, no, I really, really love Murderbot. But then again, snarky artificial intelligence. Of course I'm going to like it.
Oh, how is snarky artificial intelligence not like your username on Twitter or anything?
I think it was I should look into that. I should maybe change my username on Twitter to that.
I can relate. I think I've read considerably less books without pictures in the last few years. I tend to start a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then abandon them around the house and start reading something else.
With pictures in. That tends to be my way. I can literally count on one hand the number of books without pictures that I've read in the last 12 months. They were all good. I think I'm just really picky about what I want to read now. I'm not prepared to put the work in, because my mum does that. She'll like, I'll try this. I'll read at least 5 chapters. And I'm like, if it doesn't hook me in the first 2, it's gone. It's just gone.
I think that's where I've gotten to, but my mum, like, she'll hate a book, like full on hate a book, and she'll still finish it. She'll plow through every single chapter, just to be able to definitively say, like, I hated this. This was a bad book.
Yeah.
I've never understood it, but I think, I have a tendency to read good books and not finish them. And then forget about that and start something else. Like, I know when Altered Carbon started, I started reading Altered Carbon. It's fine. I've just not read more than about 4 chapters. I started reading Good Omens in January. Was determined, like, this is a new year. I'm going to read some novels. I know I like Good Omens. I'm going to read Good Omens again.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm about 200 pages into a 400-page book and just...
I think I did manage to read Good Omens, but I'm not a massive fan of Neil Gaiman's prose writing, like his words only writing. Unpopular opinion, I know. But yeah, I've tried most of his. I've tried Stardust, Neverwhere, and Antsy Boys. I even tried Coraline because that's a kid's book.
And it's only like 100 pages.
Yeah. But something about his writing just doesn't, in that form. I mean, I will read his, picture endeavours, but then again, he's not responsible for the pictures, so there you go, take that what you will. But yeah, I have tried. I think Good Omens I could get through because he's teamed up with Terry Pratchett, and
that is true.
That's the only reason.
I have a similar problem with Neil Gaiman, actually, and I think one of the things is he's quite vague as a writer.
Yeah.
So when he's writing comics, there's someone there to, like, fill in the blanks.
Yes.
But I think he has tendencies to just kind of not tell you anything at times and just, like, hope you'll get on with it. Short stories, though, I think short stories and comics are where
those are definitely.
I'm good with Neil Gaiman. Good Omens is good, and I do wonder how much of that is Terry Pratchett, like, filling in the blanks.
I feel like a lot. I don't know, but I feel like a lot of it is Pratchett doing some heavy lifting. I could be wrong. I've not read all the Discworld books. I will never read all the Discworld books.
I know Matt claims to have read all the Discworld books, and I don't believe it's possible.
No, I don't. Yeah, I mean, he stopped writing them now, so in theory, you could catch up. But still,
there's only so many.
There's only so many things I can read in a year.
I'm right in thinking there's like 40 Discworld books at this point.
There's a lot. I lost count around the 30 mark, so there's well more than that.
Yes.
Is it time to Google?
No. Why would you say that?
Why?
41, incidentally.
41!
It's the number I've settled on.
Okay, we'll go with that then.
Should you Google that, they might claim that there's 41 Discworld novels published over 32 years. But
there you go. He's very prolific.
But that's just the kind of trivia I happen to just conjure from thin air. Yeah. Other search engines are available.
Yeah, although less used these. I was just thinking these days, where have all the search engines gone? What happened to Alta Vista?
The scariest thing I ever read in a Stephen King book is in one of his like 4-in-1 novella things that he does. There's a point where a character uses Bing as a search engine. No,
it's like that.
It's like the living hell out of me.
It's like The Amazing Spider-Man. Like one of the worst things about that film was the fact Peter Parker just uses Bing all the time.
It just doesn't seem authentic for the real world. No one's ever, except if you're working somewhere where the browser of choice is Microsoft Explorer and presumably now Edge, where you somehow end up on Bing.
Yeah. That's the only time it's ever come up.
Oh, I love how weird this has gotten so fast.
Search engine.
Most of the time we do these and kind of talk about like comics or films or something, but
no, search engines.
Murder bots, Terry Pratchett.
Yeah.
Dragging us slowly back towards the point.
Yes.
I feel like we've both read a lot of comics recently, but they've all been just to review them for the website.
I don't want to break the illusion for people, but That is absolutely true. I mean, I've liked them. I mean, Carmen, for example, the review of number 4, went up this week. That one
could definitely be true.
That could be true by time of recording. But I enjoy it. I look forward to reading it, to review it. But it does mean that I am mostly reading comics and then reviewing them. I will say I have got Eve 2 waiting for me. I've subscribed to Eve on Comixology. So I've got Eve 2 waiting for me. But
I am looking forward to Eve 2. Eve 1 was good. As we covered last week, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, a fortnight ago, yeah.
Fortnight ago.
Wow.
Oh, there's other stuff I've subscribed to, and I can't think what it is from that. So Eve I've subscribed to, and obviously not Marjorie Finnegan.
No.
Eve 2, and I can't remember. I subscribed to things.
What did we have? We had Jenny Zero, which I think is probably a trade weight for me.
Yes, and Bexstar.
Bexstar, which again, I'm tempted to try trade. Although, having said that, it is quite a good read as it seems like it could be a good singles book.
Yes, and I do want to support Mad Cave.
Yeah.
They're a publisher that are relatively new to me, and I kind of want to see what they've
They seem to put out some interesting stuff, so yeah.
What else has Zach been reading? I've been...
How is the Turtles going?
The Turtles is forever. I am currently on volume 10 of the hardcover IDW collections, in what I anticipate is about to be the trial of Krang back in Dimension X, and I can't wait. I feel weird being this person, but man, Krang's adorable, isn't he? It's just a little
pink blob.
Pink blob that's just angry about everything, and who can't relate to that?
I mean,
sure, he's a little bit genocidal at times.
Yeah,
but
we've all been there. We've all had the feeling of wiping out life, but
for our own benefit, though.
True.
I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but Krang, there's definitely an appeal to Krang. I was going to say he's a good egg. That's definitely not true. He's definitely the bad guy.
He's a villain.
But there is something endlessly interesting about Krang. So yeah, looking forward to carrying on with that, which I will probably do more of today because I am contractually obliged to at this point, I think. Turtles is good. I've been kind of breaking it up by reading the deluxe edition of Hack Slash.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, which I've kind of not read any of Hack Slash before and have been kind of looked down upon every time I acknowledge its existence. But I really like Money Shot.
Yeah.
As has been expressed previously. And I really like Revival, which is where Hack Slash, the idea for Revival came from Hack Slash.
Yeah.
Yes. And I don't know, at some point in a Humble Bundle somewhere, the PDFs of Hack Slash have made their way to me. And it is just like reading a 50-page slasher film. And it's not perfect. It's definitely flawed. It is as trashy as a slasher film at times. There is one story that involves... I don't want to give too much away, but Robert Kirkman and Scotty Young, and is it Steve Niles who did 30 Days of Night?
Could have been. All
characters, all dead.
Brilliant.
What more do you need to know about Hack Slash? And so this of course is making me incredibly paranoid. So if I'm reading Hack Slash at night, I'm right, I need to just make sure all the lights are on and that there's no one trying to kill me.
Yeah.
Which probably says more about my
state of mind.
Unhinged, heat-addled brain. that I'm like worried someone's trying to kill me.
Yeah, if the heat doesn't get you, someone else will.
That's right. So yeah, I'm not sure I recommend breaking up Turtles with random hack slash issues, but
if it works,
if it ain't broken, and if we've got the humble bundles to keep feeding me more of this, the intention was, so the deluxe edition did come out through Image a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago. My intention was to do like a delayed review of it, but it's so long and it's taking me so long to read because it's like 500 pages.
That's a big boy.
And I'm kind of tempted to like put out a written review of it that's like, okay, so a couple of 100 pages in, this is where I'm at. And I'll just update it periodically. It'll be more of a hack slash blog post than...
I mean, we've not done a real-time review. That could be interesting.
Just updating it every few chapters. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's where I am now.
Fair enough.
Turtles and Slashers.
Turtles and Slashers. That's a band name right there.
Not a good band, but a band.
Not a good band. No, terrible band.
That's just reminded me that I watched last night. You know, they're like.
Oh yeah, is that that film with the guy and the Beatles?
That's right. Good job, Angela.
There you go.
The guy who gets hit by a bus, and when he wakes up, the Beatles never existed, so he decides to write all the Beatles songs.
Yeah.
And I was kind of expecting it to not be very good, because that's kind of the way I think it was reviewed, and I had a really good time.
Yay!
So yeah, it turned up on Netflix, and I realised I never went to see it. And it's Danny Boyle, who of course brought us the greatest sci-fi film of our age in Sunshine.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Sunshine, of course, a slasher film in space.
Well, yeah, basically.
Which absolutely just a good choice, isn't it? So yeah, don't know. I don't remember anyone saying anything positive about Yesterday at the time, but
no, I don't either.
I had a pretty good time, and just reminded me how much I like the Beatles. Not that I really need that reminder, but
see, I was brought up in a Beatles versus Kinks household.
See, I was brought up in a household of my mum just outright rejecting the Beatles' existence.
Yeah, see, my mum really liked the Beatles, and my dad thought they were overrated and that the Kinks were far better. So, as a teenager, I have to say I leaned towards the Kinks.
See, I can see both arguments. As I argued on a previous podcast with a previous podcast host, just because the Beatles are overrated, it doesn't mean they're not really good.
Very true. Very true.
Hell, you know what? Yesterday got 63% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and 89% from the audience. That's a good film by the internet's account, considering some of the tripe we watch.
Yeah, we'll be watching. Yes. Yeah. Someone had ideas. I think that's the thing. Rotten Tomatoes is a pointless exercise, I think, most of the time.
Yeah, the opinions tend to cancel each other out, and then if you look at IMDb reviews, IMDb seems to be a place where people go to review films explicitly to say the words, I don't understand what all the hate is about.
Oh, yeah.
Possibly my favourite sentence to see in a review, just, what's the issue, man?
What's the issue?
This is totally fine. This is not the worst Fantastic Four. No one ever said that.
No.
Actually, people probably did. I don't know. I watch a lot of films at the moment that people hate, and I'm kind of like, this is fine. Change your expectations. Break it up with some, Fox-made Fantastic Four to really reset the bar for yourself.
Then you'll know. Then you'll know what a bad film is.
Speaking of which, Men in Black International, better than people let on.
True.
Just gonna.
Yeah, I would argue possibly better than Men in Black 3.
I don't know if I saw Men in Black 3, which I think might...
I didn't like Men in Black 3. As far as I'm concerned, we only had the 2.
Men in Black 2 does have one of my favourite bits of bad dialogue, which is that Will Smith saying to Rosario Dawson, have you ever noticed that it rains when you're sad? And she's all like, hey, lots of people are sad when it rains. It's like, no, it rains because you're sad. Oh.
That was Tommy Lee Jones said that to her, yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was Tommy Lee Jones said that. Because there was kind of a weird implication that was he a father or not? Did he get off with her mother, the alien queen, or not? Who's to say?
It's bad dialogue, but it's
very
like
bad.
5-star bad dialogue.
It's peak bad dialogue.
It's good stuff. Not for the right reasons, but...
Yeah, for all the wrong reasons.
I think I would quite happily go back and watch Men in Black 2, so maybe leave that with me.
Okay.
Is there a way to segue into us doing Men in Black films? Did they have comics? I bet they had comics.
They had comics. They did.
Were they good?
I don't know. It was before my time. I'm sure they had comics. I will swear that if people out there who have access to a Google wish to Google it, I'm sure they will find. I'm pretty sure it was, but yeah, I feel like it was in the 60s. I feel like it was before. I may be wrong. That may be because the film set the flashback bits in the 60s. And the whole bit about...
I'm not going to get into Googling this right now, but no. I am going to research this excessively and
we will find the answer.
Maybe we need to really crack open the vault of films people don't expect us to cover. Let's look into Cowboys versus Aliens. It's open the Men in Black. Great.
Yeah, it was a comic book. There you go. I can confirm it wasn't a very long comic book. It was 6 issues, but it was a comic book created by Lowell Cunningham, originally published by Arcel Comics, bought out by Malibu Comics, which was bought out by Marvel Comics. There you go. And it was the early 90s. There we go. That's probably why I have a vague memory.
So what I'm hearing from you is Men in Black International Comics confirmed from Marvel for 2022.
Yeah. Depending on who owns that, but it does beg the question who owns the rights. But Men in Black was Fox, and Disney owned Fox, so there you go. We can get a Marvel film out of that.
Fingers crossed. Real issues there with the fact that some characters may also be cast in the Marvel Universe. Well, no, some actors may also be cast in the Marvel Universe.
Yes.
For now, at least.
Infinite universes, it's fine.
That's right. Infinite universes, infinite crossover possibilities.
Yep.
With that said, I don't know.
Yeah. Speaking of infinite diversity and infinite combinations.
Nicely done. This is Pride Month.
Yep. June is Pride Month, traditionally.
Which, as we were talking before we started, largely in America, but also seemingly everywhere else as well now.
Yeah, it started in America. Now all the places. I believe there's a global... I think we have some sort of global day at the end of June, I believe. Don't quote me on that internet, but yeah.
We can have as many global days as we want. We just stake our claim for it.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do a kind of Pride Month special podcast where we'll shine a light on some of the Pride titles. Pride.
Yes.
I was trying to think of a pun there. I don't think there is one.
No, there isn't.
That we particularly like and often recommend. We've been doing some Pride articles over at biggerthancapes.com.
Yeah.
Which we should more regularly plug, I reckon.
Yeah, biggerthancapes.com is our website, which is full of reviews and
occasional other things.
Yes. But there will be probably more Pride recommendations, maybe for books we discuss, and maybe in more detail. Who's to say? We've got to write them yet.
Yes, who knows what the future holds?
Indeed.
So, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about Pride books and books for Pride Month and Pride Month recommendations, and as Angela has suggested, some of the great big questions, the big questions within Pride and comics and representation and
all those things.
Such things. To be honest with everyone, this isn't our most structured of episodes.
It's become increasingly apparent as this introduction has continued.
Yeah, the more we've talked about how we were going to do this episode, I think the less we know how we're going to do this episode. So we're going to wing it a little bit and we'll see.
Yeah.
I like our chances. I think
we can do something with this. Yeah.
I think this will be a good quality episode.
And yeah, 89% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Always the goal, never 100. You don't want people to be too positive or too excited.
Or they'll dig up reviews from ages ago just so they can knock the freshness score off Paddington 2.
One of the two best Paddingtons, I hear.
It is the best Paddington. It's one of the greatest films of all time, but that's not the point.
That's not what today is about. That's next. No. So, Angela, where would you like to begin with?
Where would I like to begin? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? So, there is a thing these days where we want diversity in comics. But let us begin back in the days when there wasn't so much diversity in comics, because there didn't used to be. It used to be full of straight white dudes, essentially. Occasional women who didn't really do much because, women's. So we talked. We had a little bit of discussion, and the big publishers, we'll mention them. We're going to focus more on the indies, but just to put in context. So the first obviously gay character belongs to DC, and I'm going to let you say his name because I can't pronounce it very well.
So he's meant to be Spanish, so
yeah.
I'm guessing he's Extraño.
That's what we think, because there's a little thing over the A, but
a little wavy accent guy.
Yeah, so he's 1987. For those of you who are young enough to not remember the 80s, it kind of is a little bit of a big deal. It feels like, oh, that wasn't very early. It was remarkably early because the AIDS crisis was still going on in the 80s. I remember as quite a young kid of about 8 or 9, which is late 80s, early 90s, and hearing about AIDS on the news, and it was a very big thing even then. So he was DC's. Marvel was a bit later. They had North Star of Alpha Flight. I think he said the words in 1992. The creator claims that he was always intended to be gay right from his inception in 1979. So, again, quite early. So that's what the big two have done. You're probably aware the big two have continued to occasionally try diversity, and occasionally, no, not occasionally, every time they've tried it, they've had pushback. But there we go. They have tried it.
And I feel like some examples have been more long-standing than others. Was it the example that I always thought was the earliest gay DC character was Obsidian, Alan Scott's son, and I'm now realizing that Obsidian. I haven't seen Obsidian in a long time, Angela.
No. I mean, to be fair, currently, Batwoman is held up as a very, good example, which is good. And they did Bombshells, although, as we've discussed, neither of us stuck with that title for very long. For reasons, it did feel like an exercise in diversity. Sadly, it had everything I should have loved about it, and I didn't love it.
And to be fair, I know people who really enjoyed Bombshells. So I am glad that it did find an audience, and I think it was a good creative team. I don't know. I don't know why Bombshells didn't
it just didn't
hit with me.
Quite land. with Marvel, I mean, you've got Iceman, although that was controversial because time travel and his past self and his future self and...
Yes, and I know it was met with mixed responses, as was his solo series afterwards.
Yeah, I liked his solo series, but it could have been better.
Yeah, I think that's entirely fair. I think it works to say that Iceman is gay and has always been gay, and a little bit awkward with the Jean Grey kind of psychically outing him as always being gay, which I feel like could have been handled
better,
a lot better. Yeah, basically any other way of handling that is probably a little bit more considered. It's
but you've also got in the Young Avengers, you've got Teddy and the other one,
Wiccan and Hulkling.
That's it. I can never remember their names. I'm really sorry, people. It's been years since I read Young Avengers. But yeah, you've got them, and that's nice.
Is it? I want to say it's Billy.
It's Billy. It is Billy. Yeah. Billy and Teddy. Or Wiccan and Hulkling. But no, it's good to have them as, young characters who they haven't been retconned in any way, which is nice.
That's true. Yeah.
But, I mean, examples are few and far between. I mean, the Hellcat run that was probably like 6 years ago now.
No, that would suggest the passage of time, and I can't deal with that.
No, but anyway, that with the cutesy art, that had quite a few. I'm going to go with LGBTQIA+. Have I got those in the right order? When I was growing up, we only had LGBT. So I apologise to people if I just lapse and just go with those 4 letters, because as a teenager, that was all we had. That was all I knew. We didn't have any of the other letters. Sorry. We didn't even have a plus. It never occurred to put a plus on there. But anyway, there you are. So I might just, So I apologise in advance for anyone if I get that acronym completely wrong. It's new. Good for the young people. But that had some stuff in it as well. And it wasn't forced. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think Hellcat seemed quite laid back and quite...
Yeah.
Casually diverse.
Yeah, it was.
Is that
casually diverse? Yeah, it didn't make a big thing. It's like, it was just part of the overall fabric of the book. It wasn't deliberately setting out to give a message, which I think is a good thing. I think this is the problem, to segue off into something completely random, because that's this podcast. That's the thing about representation, is you can either have it in your face and making a statement, or you can have it part of the fabric. And both schools of thought are good. It doesn't matter per se, but as long as it's a good book.
Yeah, I think that's true. What I will say, and this is perhaps going to segue into the indie conversation, is I think it's easier for books like Hellcat to kind of be more casual about the representation and up the amount of representation and diversity, because it's not under the constant kind of scrutiny that Captain America is, or Batman, or the Justice League, or other mainstream heroes are available.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of... Yeah, it's like that's probably one of the reasons why that book got cancelled. It had a longer run than I thought, actually, to be fair. It did quite well. It did eventually get cancelled because I read it. That's
true. It is historically true that if we read a book from Marvel, it's getting cancelled. Hellcat, Mockingbird, Kate's Hawkeye book.
Yes.
Kate's West Coast Avengers.
All of them.
The stuff we like.
The stuff we like. So it had a better run than I thought, but like you say, it's easier because it's not a top tier character. It's a safer territory. It's like, if the book fails, we can blame it on the fact that this is not a well-known character. Whereas, if we made, let's go with a gay Captain America, because Lord knows the internet's been there. If we have that and then it gets, the sales completely plummet through the floor and it gets cancelled, then everyone's like, well, that's because it was, a popular gay character. We can't attempt that again. It's safer to do it for, but I mean, props to DC. They have been pushing the Batwoman thing and she has a show. So.
Yeah, that's true.
There's also the argument that in a way, having an attractive female lesbian is perhaps more appealing to your general white, straight comics readers than perhaps having a gay guy is. I don't know. I'm not a straight person. I don't know how that works.
I think I can definitely see the argument, and I can see. On the one hand, yes, and I guess it begs the question because we know that we know that Batwoman has been successful with the LGBTQIA plus community and with the straight community. So maybe having attractive Batwoman,
good plan.
Maybe it's just a smart move on DC's part because nobody's okay. I'm sure some people are upset about it, but it's been like 10 years. I've learned to just tone them out. It's been more than 10 years, right?
It's been more than 10 years.
Final Crisis when she got her own book, and then
it's been a long time.
I want to say it was Batman. Oh God, I wish I didn't know all these things. It was Batman Reborn when Bruce is dead, where she got her own title, and the kind of detective comics series with Renee Montoya, which I don't think has ever been reprinted, which has been
sad.
An irritation for going on 15 years, because you can get Montoya in kind of Gotham Central and that One Question book, 5 Books of Blood, which ties into Final Crisis. Not the important bits of Final Crisis, mind, the crime Bible bits of Final Crisis. Yeah. I hate that I remember all of this so well. For those of you wondering about the crime Bible and Final Crisis, please send messages to Matt. I think he's the one who remembers more than I do. And please don't ask me more questions about it. But yeah, I feel like the early days Montoya Batwoman relationship, question Batwoman, probably. Yeah. If I'm going to use one superhero name, I should use them both.
Yeah.
Was really good comics and good representation, and I really liked Montoya as the Question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why that got phased out and Vic Saz? Vic. I'm not sure why Vic came back. Can't remember his last name, but I am not sure why we reverted back after New 52 and Rebirth and
reboots, retcons, it's all
reboots
the rage.
On top of reboots.
I mean, having said that, I just remembered, and I should have remembered it because I read it, but Midnighter and Apollo got their own little...
They did
get their own little... That got cancelled pretty early on, I think, because I read it. Anyway.
Was that Steve Orlando?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I remember things.
Yay!
No, not often when I need to, good. But...
Well, yeah. So, in conclusion, there is representation in the big two. It's limited in but then again, they're putting out more books than a lot of indie press are putting out in a year. They're putting out in a week what Valiant have put out in a year. So
yeah, Valiant. This has not been a great year for their output. This is beside the point.
That's beside the point. But to segue in. So the big two have some representation, but we find more representation in indie comics.
Yes, pretty inarguably, I would say.
Yeah.
I think we even come to stuff like Vault as a publisher, who have been quite vocal about the idea of making sure that female characters and minority characters are prominently featured in basically everything that they do.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think they're one of the companies that have been most vocal about it. I always try and find the press release where they talk about it, and I never can, but I know it happened.
Yeah.
So I know when they launched, they were very big on wanting to have better race representation and gender representation and LGBTQIA plus representation.
Yeah.
Which I think they've pretty consistently nailed. I think.
Yeah, they're one of the few publishers who seem to have some sort of representation or diversity in pretty much all their books that they're putting out. Definitely,
and I think we see a lot of creators that are now working for Marvel and DC kind of come up through Vault and other companies as well, Black Mask, Aftershock, but creators like Vita Realia. The first books from Vita I read was Submerged.
Yeah.
Which is Vault in the past.
Yes, the dim and distant past, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it seems like indie comics have more freedom for the story you want to tell, having more equal representation, because you're not under the scrutiny of, obviously we've talked about like Hellcat and the books that aren't the most mainstream of the big two. That's such a contradiction.
But it's true. The smaller ones of the big two, not their marquee characters.
Yeah, and then indie books have even less scrutiny and less less to kind of fight against, I guess. So if you want to tell something that's more representative, I think we see it a lot more flexible in indie comics. And I feel like indie publishers like Vault and Black Mask and Aftershock and Image, others are available.
Other publishers do exist,
are all quite okay with it. I don't feel like there's such a panic-stricken response to it as there is sometimes with
I think the thing is because they're telling specific stories as well. They're not having to shoehorn anything into an existing universe that has 70 years of backstory or 70 years of history. It's like they're standalones. So, there's ongoings. I mean, The Walking Dead will continue till literally the zombie apocalypse.
Hey, The Walking Dead finished, Angela. They did it again.
Oh God! You see, it never really ends. But that sort of thing. So they don't have long-running universe, 60 issues. I mean, I don't know how long Saga's going to be. Saga will never be finished. But a lot of them are sort of, 40 issues and done story-wise, or the smaller ones like Vault and Black Mask. Like Black Mask, 4 kids walk into a bank. That's just one trade and done. And that's, so you've got a chance to sort of tell that story because it's not going to be part of a long spanning universe that's going to last until your grandchildren are reading comics. So that does presumably give you way more freedom to play about with what is out there. And, you're like, I want some representation. This is how I'm going to do it. And it's a lot easier to do it because it is its own thing.
Yes, well said.
Words.
No, good words though. Words that I agree with, and I think, the closed stories and the shorter stories very much open it up to that freedom and telling the story you want to tell. So the representation, if you want it there, it is there, and I think we've seen a lot with Vita Realia and Mags Visaggio as well. I think whilst Mags has works for at least DC.
Yeah, I believe so.
I think she manages to do a lot more kind of trans representation in
Yeah,
her,
she does.
her work for, I want to say largely Black Mask, right? So
I think she does, yeah.
Sex, Death, Revolution and Kim, both
Yep.
trans representation, quite upfront.
Very, very good representation.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the kind of representation that, whilst it's very clear representation and doesn't shy away from it, I think it works well in that it doesn't feel like it's happening in the story just to be there, like it can sometimes feel with bigger publishers. I feel like Kim, one of the Kims being trans, I can't remember the Kim's last names, and I know.
No, I can't remember, but it's Kim and Kim.
Yeah. I feel like it's a part of the character and it works in that sense. And I feel the same way with things like Sex, Death, Revolution. I think it's largely what the story is about. The story's kind of coming to terms with the past and just that really. Coming to terms with the past.
Coming to terms with the past, yeah.
The burden of transitioning.
Yeah.
Oh, that almost sounds like I know what I'm talking about. Which I think it's interesting to tell that story framed in a way with magic.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what's interesting about a lot of this representation, particularly in indie books, is that it is framed within fantasy and or sci-fi contexts.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there are exceptions where we get like complete real world stories.
Oh yeah, we do, which are very good.
I think it's nice to have the blending of representation while still telling a sci-fi story, which can feel quite natural at times. I think the idea that in the future, in space, I think it allows you to play downplay.
Downplay.
Allows you to downplay the kind of worse elements of like the human general public response to certain things. I think you can cut that out completely by saying, well, in space in the future, everybody's got over it and we live in a better world for it.
Yeah.
Which is something we see in a lot in the A Wave Blue World anthology series, where we are in a much more positive future where everything's nicer and better.
Yeah.
Which is good. I like the nice positive future idea.
Yeah, because so much of fiction is dystopian, awful, terrible future. It's nice when it's like hopeful future.
Everything might be okay. A Wave Blue World, I think, have actually been very good. Obviously, it's a benefit of the creators, they get involved, but I think all of their anthologies have done a good job of kind of being quite representative and quite diverse.
Yep.
I know me and Will talked about Maybe Someday.
Oh, yes.
Many weeks ago. Equally, I think the predecessor to Maybe Someday, which is All We Ever Wanted.
Hey, well remembered.
I think both of those kind of do a good job at representing a nice, diverse potential futures.
Yeah.
Maybe we should use this as a segue into kind of recommending some sci-fi fantasy books. We've not actually done any of the recommending.
We've not done any of the recommending.
I guess technically I've recommended A Wave Blue World.
Yeah, I think we can call that a recommendation. Yeah.
Chalk that down as one.
One. I'm trying to. The thing is when you think, I will say something that I'm gonna fling out just to completely segue into something similar, but also the same. So I know that made sense in my head. It doesn't make sense to human beings, but whatever. So one of the things that I've noticed is that, again, so indie publishers not having the need to kowtow to, establish universe gives them more freedom and more diversity. So Comixology Originals, they give creators. That's the other thing to mention, is that books that are diverse are not necessarily written by the people represented within, which is fine. If you are a straight white person, why shouldn't you be able to write a black female lesbian Why not? However, having said that, it would be nice if the black female lesbians got the opportunity to be writing about whatever they want to write about. But that's the thing. So Comixology Originals give creators who perhaps are diverse within themselves their chance to do their own representation. And many of them are part of the Comixology sale. So there you go, flinging that out. So what Comixology also allow, as well as that, is, so there's Comixology Originals where they get someone to write it, but Comixology Submit means as well that diverse creators can put their own diverse comics on Comixology. Sometimes they're ones that have been published through Kickstarter, and then later on they've moved on to Comixology Submit, so you can get them. But there's quite, there's a lot of them. There's hundreds, and some of them are diverse. And one that I will be reviewing for the website when I get around to it was Artifice, which was basically prototype android ordered to eliminate some scientists. Doesn't kill the 19-year-old human who turns out to be gay. And yeah, romance ensues, but also there's a lot of talking in therapy. And it is a self-published one, so there is no editorial aside from what the creator wants there to be. But having said that, it is an interesting comment about sort of looking at gay people through the lens of an android who, as it turns out, is gay, but he doesn't, how he doesn't know why he is. And yeah, it's an interesting so sometimes in these science fiction things, it's like, let's explore the lens of being different through having a character who isn't human, who may look human. They may be a fairy if it's fantasy, they may be a robot if it's science fiction, but explore that through them because they already have an outsider perspective. And if you are a member of LGBTQIA+, you may often feel yourself like an outsider.
You tied that all together quite nicely.
There you go. I had a point there somewhere.
I feel like while we're on the kind of Comixology side of things, we have a kind of obligation to talk about the Pride.
Yeah, we do, because it's damn good. And it's got Pride in the name, and that is very appropriate for, Pride Month.
Indeed. And so for those of you who are not aware, the Pride is Joe Glass's ongoing-ish. Yeah, ongoing.
It's been bits, yeah.
Yeah. Joe Glass's ongoing superhero team book, which began self-published. It's been kickstarted as a paperback, a hardback, as everything, all of its possibilities, single issues, paperback, hardback. And he's now residing at Comixology Originals this past week. That might not be true when this goes out. Maybe it is. Also was released as a omnibus through Dark Horse. So you can now get Pride Season 1 and Season 2 in one paperback. Basically is a kind of Justice League type group that are built around inclusion and diversity and representation. So pretty much every member of the Pride is not straight, with the exception of Cub, who is straight.
Yes.
So you got Wolf.
Fabman. Fabman, Wolf, Muscle Mary, Bear.
Hey.
Twink.
Frost.
White Trash.
Who gets a new name in the second volume.
Yes,
I can't remember what it is.
No. Angel.
Yes. Yeah, well done. I think it might be clear that we weren't prepared for naming the members of the Pride just then.
Possibly should have been.
There are extra characters added in the second volume, which I think is really good. I think whilst the first volume of the Pride, as Joe has admitted himself, is quite heavy on featuring different kinds of gay men.
Yeah.
The second volume
Aside
kind of
from Muscle Mary.
Said, yeah, and Frost and
Frost.
There are some. There's some exceptions. Volume 2 kind of expands more into intersex characters and trans characters more heavily, and just expands on that diversity. But whilst featuring a lot of diverse characters, does still feature the occasional straight character as a member of the team, and kind of works on the idea of allies being essential and the inclusion and the Pride not being exclusionary in any way and being about being for everyone, because Pride is for everyone. It's got a nice message to it, the Pride. Yeah, there's a really good message behind the Pride, and I think whilst I liked Volume 1, Season 1 as it is now, I think Season 2 just really ups the game and kind of, I think the confidence has been built up a lot in Joe's writing and the idea behind the Pride after the first 6 issues and then the Pride Adventures. Feels like Season 2 is kind of firing on all cylinders, for a metaphor. I don't know what that means, but I just hear people say
it's a good metaphor. I think it's true, because it's like there was a lot of establishing going on with the Pride season Volume 1. And also we didn't really know what the reception was going to be. But because it did well and because people liked it and loved it, then it felt like he had more confidence doing Season 2, like taking more pride in the Pride.
See what you did there.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I think Joe Glass's other work as well, so Acceptable Losses, which is kind of a dark, gritty Captain America type story. Really good. Also has some diverse representation. Not as on the surface as the Pride, but I guess it's hard to be as on the surface as the Pride. We also have Glitter Vipers, which is an LGBTQIA plus street gang protecting Manchester's gay village. So it's kind of nice. I like it when we see Manchester in comics.
Yeah.
It's also got a positive, baseball bat wielding message.
Yes, I'm all for that. I think more baseball bat wielding people, please.
That's what I'm all about. Is it? It's largely what I'm about. Not sure about the baseball bats.
Yeah, but it was it was a really good way of dealing with that sort of issue. Yeah.
Good job, Angela.
Yeah.
But I would recommend all of Joe's work. I think the Pride is the starting point. Yeah.
And then explore more of his stuff, because it's all good.
Yeah, and more accessible than ever, which is nice. It's digital through Dark Horse. You can now pick up the trade. I'm guessing in any comic book shop. Well, any good comic book shop.
Yeah.
Going back to Mags Visaggio and Comixology, you've got Lost on Planet Earth. Again, good representation, kind of almost a Star Trek parody at times, but not as in space parody-ish, kind of grounded Star Trek.
Yes.
Seems like a contradiction, but I'm standing by it. Are we just descending into recommendations now? Is that where we
can descend into that particular scenario? I mean, it is worth having a look at Comixology currently has a Pride sale. Presumably that will continue until the end of June. Presumably, because that's when it ends. That's when Pride ends. So I'm assuming they'll have it there. But there is a diverse kind of lot in there. There's stuff from the big publishers. There's stuff from the little publishers. There is, there's various all of the publishers are involved. So, for example, there's Kim Reaper, not to be confused with Kim and Kim, as I often do. But that's by Sarah Grayley, and that is about basically girl has crush on girl. Girl's part-time job turns out to be she's the Grim Reaper. I've not read the second one, but the first one was quite okay. The first one was cute. The first one was quite cute. I've not read the second one, but it's basically a meet cute between two girls, and yet grim reaping, which is always nice. It's funny, it's amusing. What more do you want out of that? But that's in the sale, so I just thought I'd pluck that one out of the air because I have knowledge of it.
Can't really argue with you on that. That makes good sense. I would definitely say, going back to Comixology Originals, because apparently I'm managing to do that. I'm pretty sure I recommended this to you last year. Youth was really good.
Will has also recommended me Youth. I really need to read Youth because I am getting it from all corners that I should read Youth.
Yeah, I have to say words I hate now, but it's I guess kind of a coming of age story with queer teenagers and superpowers. It's the coming of age story thing I get sick of saying. I'm okay with queer teenagers and superpowers. I just feel like 90% of books are described as coming of age stories at the moment.
They are, yeah.
But Youth is a very good, I want to say it's 4 issues, and I think season 2 is coming out at the moment. But yeah, really good brief story and superpowers and
things we like in comics.
Yes we do on occasion.
Yeah, on occasion. We don't like it all the time.
But yeah, Youth is definitely worth checking out. Also, and I constantly think we should do this for a book club episode of the podcast or a book club of the book club. But my lesbian experience with loneliness by Abby Nagartha is really good.
That is something we should probably do.
It's really good. I think she's done, I want to say she's done 2 sequels now. Solo Exchange Diary and the other one. Not read the third one yet, as that may have suggested. But kind of, chronicles her struggles with depression and coming to terms with her own sexuality. And it's just a really good, quite short manga read. I say quite short. It's probably like, let's be honest, like most mangas, I think it's short, but it's probably about 200 pages.
Yeah, short manga is different to normal short.
Yes, but very, very good book. And I just think this is going to sound strange considering it's about, being a depressed lesbian and, realizing you're a depressed lesbian, but I think quite relatable in a lot of the themes within it.
Yeah. I like that. See, that's what good representation is, that you can relate in some way, not necessarily in your own experience, maybe empathetically, but in some way you can relate.
That is true. I kind of wish we had more mangas to recommend, but I feel like that's a sign that we don't read enough manga.
We don't read a lot of manga, I'm afraid. No, it's just because I grew up reading left to right, and reading right to left still makes my brain hurt.
I occasionally force manga onto you with the book.
You do, yeah. Yeah, and Pluto, to be fair, Sad Robots.
Oh, Pluto is so good.
No queer representation, but very good.
Not that I can think of, but... No. Still good books.
Still good.
I feel like I can just sit here giving you recommendations for an infinite period of time.
I think the thing is, it all depends what you want out of a representative book, in a way. So some people, you might want a meet cute that reads like a heterosexual romance book that, is really hot with teenagers right now, I hear. I don't know what the youths like, but that kind of thing. Or on the other hand, you might want a book where, I don't know, a badass lesbian fights space monsters, which is a different thing entirely. That's kind of the thing, is representation can be as diverse as the books themselves. So we can be here forever recommending different bits and pieces and different books, because there are so many different ones that all do a good thing in different ways. But I think the key thing there is they have to be good books, and not all. This is the problem, is we often give a book a pass because it's got representation in it, and that's not necessarily what, it's like, yes, but we have gay people in this book, therefore it's good, or we have black people, or we have more female characters, and we give it a pass because of those things rather than the quality of the story or the art or whatever is in that book. And we do need to, set yourself a high bar, people. Don't just accept something because it has LGBTQIA plus characters in it. It has to be a book that's also good, because I think the bar should be as high for diverse and representative books as it is for any other book. That's why I like The Pride, because it's a really good book, particularly, and season 2 is really great.
Yes,
and that's why we'd recommend it, because it's really good. And that's the thing, is make sure that whatever you're reading representation wise, don't waste your time on something just because you think, it's got representation in it, I should read it. Make sure that you're reading something that's good, because, and I think that's important as well, is that the more good books out there with representation on there, the stronger the argument is that representation belongs out there and is on a par with everything else.
I think that's really well said, and a very strong point. I think, unfortunately, a lot of books do avoid criticism by having good representation, and I think it's important that we acknowledge that you can have good representation whilst not being perfection as a book. There's still room for things to improve, and I think that's a very valid point. Well said, Angela.
Thank you.
But I think that's true. Yeah, all things should be held to a good standard, and by no means, if you're into things and they have good representation, great. But standards are good. Holding things to wanting them to be the best comics they can be and have good representation.
Yeah.
The dream, in many ways.
The dream. Good books with good diversity. Yay!
Sometimes it feels like we ask a lot, but not really right now.
No. No, and yet that seems to be quite an effort at the moment in some quarters. But hey.
Indeed. We will be keeping up the recommendations throughout Pride Month. I think we both definitely got some. It's not going to end up being a Pride recommendation because I'm kind of reviewing it in singles, but Alice in Leatherland is real good.
I need to read Alice in Leatherland because, it sounds fun and good. And, good. A good book with good representation. There we go. It passes my test.
I did feature for one of our Pride recommendations Yolanda Zanfardino's first graphic novel, which is Midnight Radio, which is worth checking out. I think that there's definitely some similarities between that and Alice in Leatherland. Elisa Ramboli's artwork, I think, while similar, might be slightly cuter, I guess. It's kind of... I don't know. Cuter... There's a certain kind of more like manga-inspired adorability. Is adorability a word?
Adorability is a word. I'm sure it was added to the dictionary some time ago. It's fine.
But Alice in Leatherland has been really good. And yes.
And that's also good stuff. Yeah, we will try and keep up the recommendations. There is some other stuff. I mean, I have to say, I have read some stuff that was in the Comixology sale, and it's okay. It wasn't.
Yeah, I think that's one of the problems, isn't it? That not everything is great.
No. And, I'm out there looking through stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cheap. I'll give it a go. And then I give it a go and I think, yeah, I'm glad it was cheap.
Harsh, but...
Yeah. I won't tell you which they were because there's literally hundreds of titles in that sale.
They'll just be the ones Angela doesn't write about in the next few weeks.
I will write about them all.
But how will you know which ones she's not written about?
Yeah, you won't know, people. You won't know. I mean, one of the ones that I did look at was the Queer Romance Anthology, which was good, but it is kind of hobbled by the fact it's an anthology. So some of the stories are good, some of the stories you want more of, some of them feel like they could be shorter. It's just the nature of anthologies. It's a bit of a
of course,
which I knew that going in. Some of them I would really like to see sort of a more expanded version of, which I'm never going to get, but we live in hope.
Don't we all? That is fair. Anthologies, the amount of anthologies I read and think, I could do with a little bit more of this, and I'm never going to get it.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah.
So, I think, whilst we can keep making recommendations, I think we might be nearly at the end of this.
Yes, I think... we've come to the conclusion, representation, good.
Yeah.
Pride, good.
Diversity, good.
Good. It's all good.
So, on that note, not bombshell this week, on that note.
On that rainbow flag coloured note.
Nicely done. We've been Angela and Zach. This has been Bigger Than Capes. Will continue to be. And remember that comics are bigger than capes.